Hey folks, we're back with Today in Tarkov. Now, some of you know I took a bit of a break, not just for content, from playing as well. Now, I did this for multiple reasons, but this latest bit of news and stuff going on is enough to motivate me to make a video about it again. And I'll probably even play it this week to check it out. Now, quickly addressing that, a lot of folks thought I was boycotting Tarkov or something, or that I quit and moved on. That was never the case. As I stated in my last Tarkov video, I didn't want to make content for a game that I didn't feel like was fulfilling its promises to its customers. And through all the drama and the nonsense that's happened in the last couple of weeks, BSG has reversed course, at least primarily on the PvE thing, which was what I was most hung up on. And they gave EOD access to PvE without any extra cost, and they're selling it to others if people want to buy into it. So that issue was solved. Now, I'm not going to go into some big sob story or explanation of everything that got out of here. I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of it from other content creators. I'm not about the whole drama farming shit, even though I probably should because it makes money, but whatever. BSG made amends, at least to a certain point. I'm not 100% happy. I'm probably barely over 51% happy, and I'm still definitely very leery, but I don't feel like a boycott or anything like that is going to help the situation. And I like the game. I didn't spend 4 years to just pack up shit because one mistake was made. So now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about the upside down bizarro world that we've been in for a few days now. In the last few weeks, we've seen more communication via Twitter and Reddit from Nikita than probably the last year, and say maybe it's the last week or two. Now, a lot of that has been stuff about them going after Arena Breakout and talking about copying and whatever. It's not important for this video, so I'm not going to get into that. But after that, we started to get a ton of replies. He's engaging with people all over the community. Yes, content creators, but he's engaging with ideas that's been talked about in the community for a while. Now, I know Twitter isn't necessarily a good representation of the community. In fact, I think it's a terrible representation of the community. Most of you folks aren't on there, and I don't blame you a bit. But hopefully this is a step toward more open communication and back and forth between the devs and the community as a whole, something that has been lacking for quite a while now. So what did we get out of this? The current event going on is kind of a hodgepodge of a bunch of different suggestions and ideas that have been thrown out here and on Reddit. We don't know how long it'll go. It could go for a week. It could go for a month. I don't know. But it has some major changes to the game. Some stuff that has changed the way the game's worked for 4 years. That specific change, the biggest one that we saw, is they removed the requirement for Found and Raid to be sold on the flea market. So you can, as long as there's no other restriction, all the other restrictions are still there. So you can't sell like SR25s or M61 high-end ammo, you know, level 5 and 6 plates, on and on and on and on. All that stuff you still can't sell. But everything that didn't meet those restriction levels can be sold now, regardless if it's Found in Raid or not. So this means that if you take a player's fully modded M4 off of them in Raid, you can sell the whole thing or the parts or whatever you want on the Flea. This also means that you can die with loot and still sell it, which this leads to one of the most reviled people in Tarkov, and that is the hatchet runner. And these are the people who come in with nothing but a hatchet. They sprint straight for the high-end loot, maybe a marked room, they put it in their secure container, and then they either suicide or they don't care about dying because they've got their loot and they can sell it on the Flea. This also means that you can buy ammo and gear from the traders, turn around and sell it for a huge markup, sometimes not as much, but a decent amount of money can be made. Now, for me personally, I don't like this change by itself. The few positives that it brings far outweigh the many negatives that go with it, but I still think this is a good thing for the devs to do. The game is supposedly still in a beta. A beta is when you're supposed to experiment and try different things to see what works best. The Found and Raid mechanic was set nearly 4 years ago, and besides some very minor tweaks here and there, hasn't been really looked at since. So while this specifically may be something I don't like, or you may not like it, or you might like it a lot, I don't think that matters. What matters is we are finally getting some variation in mechanics so we can see what works, what doesn't, and why. All right, so what else did we see change? Because there's some other really good stuff in here. Well, they further reduced inertia by 20%. They increased the weight limit by 15%, which just means you can carry more. That's where you go from green to yellow or yellow to red. This was increased by 15%. And then they increased base stamina by 15% as well. So this is going to have a huge impact on how the game feels and you moving around. Now, they did some major loot changes, and I think these are going to change on the fly pretty quickly, just based on what we've seen. They adjusted loot balancing on all locations except Streets of Tarkov. So Streets is the same, but they buffed all the other loot on all the other maps, which is what people have been talking about wanting for a while, because why run any other map for loot when Streets has it all and a lot of it? And then they adjusted loot balancing on locations, increased the chance of rare loot spawning in locked rooms. Now, Gingy has found like 7 key cards. I don't know if they were all green, but she's found 7 key cards in a day. I haven't found 7 key cards in 4 years, or 4.5, or whatever we're at now. So yeah, I think it's safe to say they buffed stuff a lot. So go check out some of the other maps. Some of the old school loot spawn stuff from years ago might be good again, like Reserve and whatnot. And I don't know about you guys, but I miss the days of, you know, going to Shoreline to find Ludexes or Reserve to find military loot and things like that. It gave you a reason to go to those maps. Now, one other thing that's been a long time coming, I think, is them buffing the gym and how many points you get out of it. Can't tell exactly what they did. I can't tell if it's doubled or maybe a little bit more than that, but I was getting 2 points of endurance while using it. So that's a good change, especially with how they nerfed how you raise strength and endurance in this last wipe. They also increased the number of AI scavs spawning on interchange, which is a big deal. If you're on interchange doing a lot of those tasks on there, plus it makes the map feel a little bit fuller. Interchange, to me anyways, felt kind of empty. You'd have huge parts of the map that just didn't have scavs sometimes. So another good change. Adjusted the number of slots on the flea market for all reputation levels. Basically, everybody got 1 extra slot. I think there's some extra stuff that could go into here. I think 1 slot is a step in the right direction. Again, it's not enough for some people. The fact that most people never get more than 3, some people don't even get more than 2 slots in an entire 6-month period, to me says the system isn't working right, because it's designed around people like myself or streamers or hardcore gamers, which a game probably shouldn't be designed around. After that, they added PvP on proper loyalty level 4. So this is the top end 9x19 ammo, which is, I think, a good change to add back in there. And then they increased the selling value of PMC dog tags. So they sell for more than they did before, which adds a little bit more to the PvP value than even before. Oh, and then lastly, I almost forgot about this one. They have made labs free to get into. It doesn't require a labs card right now to get into there. I don't know why they did this one, whatever, but if you want to try labs, now is the time to go learn it. Go in there with a cheap kit. Don't care what anybody says about, you have to go geared to labs. Just go with a cheap kit, run around, learn the map. This is the time to do it if you haven't done it yet. So with that all wrapped up, if you've taken a break from Tarkov, whether it's 2 weeks, 2 months, or maybe it's been a few years, now is probably a good time to give it a try. Throw in some feedback where you can and see what comes of this wild test event we have right now. For me, the question is, this is a new path for Nikita and BSG as a whole, or simply some red meat to appease the mob. I'm honestly not sure. I hope it's the former, because I do want to see this game succeed. And the passionate player base can be used as a force multiplier and a tool for good for their development if BSG would just communicate more. I also hope Nikita reaches out in other ways besides Reddit and Twitter. Polls on the launcher would be a huge step in the right direction and would give the rest of the player base a chance to be heard versus, I would say, the more extreme and passionate views that show up on Twitter and Reddit. Now, as always, I appreciate you guys watching my content regardless of what it's on, whether we're here or Gray Zone or maybe hopefully some Star Citizen, some of these other games I've been trying out. Hopefully we can get some content going that you guys enjoy as well. Don't forget that like and subscribe button. We'll keep doing news updates as they make these changes. Also, make sure to call your moms for Mother's Day today if you haven't. And even if you're watching this tomorrow and you forgot to do it and it's day late, it's better than nothing. Don't take your moms for granted. But we'll wrap it up there. I wish you guys the best of luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.